for me, it's not even the controls, it's the sheer breadth of the game and the possibilities, like hunting and fishing and selling pelts and bringing back shit for dinner and like making money for the gang, and how big the map is, and like no fast travel really, so instead it's just like, you know, riding around. Like I never want to ride back to somewhere that is like 3 states away because it's so far. So like for me, my problem with this game comes down less to like mechanics of the controller or like the, you know, the controls themselves, and for me it comes down to I get overwhelmed when a game just has too much for me to do. It's like why I don't particularly love survival games like Ark and stuff. That's the first one that popped into my head, or like DayZ or whatever, because there's just too much shit for me to have to keep track of. Like Arthur can gain or lose weight based on whether he's eating right or not, and like that's a lot of shit. Now, and for people who love that, that's amazing. For the people who want to like live in and really enjoy the world of Red Dead Redemption, fuck yeah, I love it. But for me, it's just overwhelming, the amount of options there are, and a lack of direction just kind of bothers me. I'm at a point where I like to know kind of where I'm going in a video game. I like to know what the next objective is. Like, I mean, there are a lot of times you don't have a clear objective in this game. You have options to do whatever the hell you want. There are some that are higher priority and will advance the story, but overall you can do whatever the hell you want in this game, which is a lot like Skyrim, where I start it, I get bored, and then I play a different character, and then I never finish the main storyline. That's one of the things I'm a tiny bit worried about when it comes to Baldur's Gate 3, is that same feeling is going to come up with Baldur's Gate as well. It's why I'm excited to play it on stream, because I think we can have a hell of a time playing the game together and making decisions and having fun. And it forces me not to just quit and start playing something else, you know, or start over or something like that. So yeah, and it's the same with this game. If I were just playing this on my own, it would be a couple hours of me running around doing goofy shit and then quitting. You know, it is very hard for me to want to focus on this. But that's just kind of my opinion, you know? That's just kind of how I rock on stuff. Figure out what to do next, like you have main objectives. Yeah, and like there are main objectives in this. They're just like let me show you real quick. The main objectives in this, which are there when you're playing the story mode. Shit, wrong button. They show up, damn it. I hate that. I hate that in order to access the menu or the map I have to do it from there. They're these. So pretty much anything that shows up in yellow is a main objective. But then there's other shit that just shows up in white and then will show up just as you go through stuff, and those are side objectives. And so you have the opportunity to look through any of these side quests and stuff, any of these white objectives, and you can do any of these objectives in virtually any order you want. But those yellow objectives, those are your main objectives. If you want to progress the story, you go to and start those yellow objectives. If that helps kind of explain how you do have main objectives, it's just not quite listed the same way. You always get distracted in Skyrim. Oh yeah, no, I just start up a game and then fuck off and do whatever. You've been playing Genshin Impact on a smartphone to console, transition from playing smartphone to console. And yeah, it's kind of awkward. I've always wondered about that because I've never played Genshin Impact, but the fact that it is console and smartphone, I've wondered how the transition would be between the two. Best part is you can choose if you don't want to do any of the side missions. Yeah, like I've been playing this pretty damn linear because I just kind of want to experience the main story. And then if I want to go back and goof off and play the game more on my own later, you know, that's a possibility. But for right now, I want to experience the story since everybody talks so highly of it. What was I gonna say? I don't know. I know. I'll give you guys a little update. So, I am thinking starting this week while Los Kitterinos are at school. I'm thinking about doing a stream during the day for a couple of hours. I don't know how it'll necessarily go. I might just keep it to TikTok, maybe just do it on there. But either way, I'm thinking about doing some of the like 16-bit games, some of the older stuff, like the old Final Fantasy games and stuff, that are not stuff that I necessarily want to stream on during the normal hours, so to speak. So I'm thinking about just kind of doing a couple hours where I stream some of that older stuff during the day. Or whatever the hell I want to do. It'll be much less rigorous and like planned out than what we do at night. Because tomorrow, of course, will be back to The Last of Us Part 2, which I'm thinking, if I'm correct, we've got 2 streams left, probably, of The Last of Us. Like, maybe 3. Because I know we've got, like, I know we're coming up on the hospital. Would you say it's probably 2 or like 3 or 4, depending on how slowly I go through stuff? Okay. I was curious. You have 3 days with Abby. Yeah, but we're closing in on the end of day 2, but I guess we still have all of day 3 with Abby as well. And then a final section, I'm assuming. Red Dead, 4 or 5 more streams left, more or less. Okay, that sounds about right. And then, Horizon, I've been doing, random thing with Horizon. You remember that old lady that I hated during the little council meeting, and I was real pissed off at her? Turns out, she killed some dude's wife who was out hunting berries because this wife was sowing dissent. She was like saying that they needed to abandon the old ways and embrace the new. So she killed that lady. And I had to find that. And then when I went to confront her about it, she ate some poison berries and killed herself. I was like, I hate when I got to the end of a mission and I was like, oh no. I was like, this bitch. And then I was like, I can't go back and show you guys now because I was just goofing off and I didn't know it was going to lead there. Stupid. But I thought I'd share. You weren't a fan? I love Zero Dawn. Well, whatever I was just trying to simplify it, but the dude's wife was doing sowing dissent. I know that because she was mad that they were talking about breaking away from tradition, and when you approach her about it, because I took the stance where Aloy told her people are gonna break off anyway, and probably more so now that you did what you did. I'm like, that was the last mission I did, I promise. I love the story, and personally, I fuck, I love the mechanics of Horizon. Like that's one where from the first time I stepped into it, it is outside of the comfort zone of games that I normally play. But for me, I thought the mechanics were fantastic. That's probably my favorite part of the game, honestly. But that's why I love that we have different opinions. You know what I mean? Love it. I can understand that. I never felt like it was that big of a problem in that game. I felt like resources were pretty well available, that I never really felt like I was running out of stuff. But I can understand how that can feel annoying to you. Like I can get that. Oh, yeah. I hear you. That I can see that as well. Yeah, where you are trying to make room and then you accidentally sell something you really need and then you never get the money. I had more trouble with Zero Dawn in the beginning with that. That is not a problem you have in Forbidden West, which is cool. Like they fixed that issue for Forbidden West because now you have a stash and stuff, and it's a lot easier to not have to, like, to be able to still have equipment and not have to like sell to save space. Sorry, I'm rambling that out of my mouth. But I really like those. Also, like I said, Forbidden West, one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. You have close calls doing that, but you don't mind unless you're playing on ultra hard. Yeah. I definitely, it's weird because I really do think Forbidden West is one of the most beautiful games I've ever played. It's so pretty. Like, yeah. And again, I like the gameplay, but again, everybody's different. And then Thursday, Thursday we're playing Resident Evil 2, which that's been going. That went really well on Thursday. I'm really excited to go back. Minus the whole liquor thing, which Pep was still making, Element 7 was still making fun of me on Saturday for it. It was pretty funny. To anybody who wasn't there and didn't see it. So I heard them say that we read a note that said the liquors track by sound. And so all of a sudden there was a liquor. I freaked out. It jumped out and attacked me. And I sat there and tried not to move, hoping that if I didn't move, it wouldn't continue to assault me. And I was wrong. It would. So Pep is just like, fucking attack the goddamn thing. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't know that. It was pretty fucking funny. Like it was pretty funny because I legit thought I could just sit still and it would ignore me. It did not ignore me. It killed me. Please good, but inventory management. I don't love inventory management, and I will say X-Core Gamer Skills, like I'll tell you, and this is a personal perspective thing, as a streamer, I've come to learn and understand and enjoy games like Resident Evil more. They're still not games that I boot up to play on my own. One, because of the horror aspect. Two, because I don't love the inventory management kind of stuff. But when I play it on stream, it's a little less, and this is for me. I've learned that it's a little more enjoyable because one, I have chat to help me, and to guide me in some spots, but also because I don't mind having to deal with that kind of an issue when it's on stream and it's like, I gotta be smart and stuff. But I 100% understand where you're coming from because I don't like streaming, or I don't like playing those games on my own for both of those reasons, you know. But again, that comes down to just kind of personal style and shit. It's not like a clicker. No, I really thought it was like a clicker, Iquan. That's the other thing, is I thought it was like a clicker because I've played so much more of The Last of Us than Resident Evil. I do agree that like the inventory management is absolutely part of the game. And that's part of what gives Resident Evil its niche. Like, the game would be a lot simpler if you didn't have that inventory management aspect. It would eliminate a lot of problems, because a lot of the things that cause you problems in that game, just from what I saw, even on easy, is like, ah, shit, I need that thing that I put in the crate on the other side of the map. Better go to the other side of the map and get it. Ah, shit, a zombie jumped out. Fuck, I wasn't ready for that. I needed the other. Like, yeah, it's a strange thing. But again, you're right. It's part of the game. It's all about the game and how you play it. But that's a wrestling joke that no one will get because Justin's not here. Let's see. Oh no. And I appreciate the way that you guide, Ire. Like, I do appreciate that you give me just enough advice so that I'm not like freaking out and failing. Like, I love that you give me just that correct bit of push. You know what I mean? You don't do it for me necessarily, but you make sure that I'm not going to be punished by it. Because yeah, I would probably rage quit if I was doing it on my own. Or I would just keep running into the same scary stuff and then I'd quit. Like, I'm not going to lie, I know enough about Resident Evil 2 to know that one of the things that I've heard is the most frustrating parts of Resident Evil 2 is, I don't know exactly how, but I know people complain about the guy that reached through the wall and crushed the other guy's skull, the big scary mysterious stranger thing. I don't know why exactly. I just know he pops up from time to time and makes things really annoying. But shit like that on top of things like resource management and like that sort of stuff gets fucking frustrating on top of everything else, you know. So knowing that I have, my point being, knowing that I have you guys to help me make sure that I'm not just making the same mistake over and over again because I don't know any better and rage quitting really does help, because yeah, you guys make it worth playing those games. You really do. Man, I haven't played Onimusha in years. I don't know, man. And yes, I'm not going to lie, I tried playing Resident Evil 1 on PS5 and the director's cuts and stuff, and I couldn't get over the mechanics. I just could not. Certain rooms he can't enter, stuff like that. He scares me more than the whole Resident Evil 8. Oh, yum. That's going to be fun. Onimusha was a classic. Yeah, no, I'm just, you know, like, now I'm just thinking, because that just brought me back to Ghost of Tsushima. And it just circles me back to, like, I've been playing so many games this year. So many more than I've played in a long time. And I do kind of, I mean, I love Jedi Survivor, but it is not in the upper echelon of games I've played this year. Like, which is funny because when I played it, I had it really high up. But after, getting through God of War Ragnarok, Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, this, Ghost of Tsushima, just a bunch of shit that I've played. When I went back to Jedi Survivor and tried to replay it a little bit, it just didn't have it was missing that spark. I mean, 16, like, it was just kind of missing something, which is, I didn't expect. It was unexpected. It's still a good game, and I still feel like if I go back in 6 months to a year, I'll still really enjoy it. But I think just overall, I don't know. Overall, it didn't have the same impact with me. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, it was just like lesser than I thought, because I think it was also one of those, you're right. If you're a Souls-like player, if that's your jam, then Survivor does offer replay. Also, E-Ray, did you run into it being like glitchier now than it was the first time we played it? Because when I went back and played it again, it was kind of glitchy, which was weird. Like, I don't know. Something about it just seemed like it needed an update or something. Like, they just kind of let it go. I don't know why. It was just weird. Like, in a way that it wasn't on release. No. And yeah, and I would see, and that's where I disagree, because for someone like me who doesn't like Souls games, I like Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor better, for me, but it's also because I can adjust the difficulty and I can get that experience without having to have the frustration. But I can understand where you're coming from. If you want that Souls experience, yeah, it's not a Souls game. You know what I mean? It does not have that same experience. Totally agree with that. I messed around with Grandmaster a little when I restarted, and yeah, no, it can be legit at times. But it also depends on like your loadout with like perks and stuff. It's a Metroidvania game with Souls of Tsushima combat ish. Souls of Tsushima. Ghost of Tsushima is, that combat system's just fucking perfect. I wish Jedi Survivor was more like Ghost of Tsushima than Dark Souls. Like, I wish the fluid combat stances that you change between in Ghost of Tsushima was how stances worked in Jedi Survivor. I wish it was more like Ghost of Tsushima. I read Souls of Tsushima originally, which is what Darth Xerxes wrote, I'm assuming by accident. But it just, I messed up first with it too. Souls was made to be broken, though. It's not hard. Yeah, Souls takes patience. It takes patience, and that's really all it takes. And if you're someone like me who doesn't have patience, who doesn't want to look for a pattern, like, it is not casual. Souls games are not casual in the sense that if you just want to run in and beat them up, it's not that kind of game. That being said, if you are a person who can be patient and look for the patterns and accept that you're going to die a couple of times without getting salty about it so that you can learn the patterns, yeah, they're not that hard. But it really comes down to learning, like you said, it is a skill. You know, and I will still say I came to respect Souls games so much when I played Elden Ring. And I only played Elden Ring for like 2 streams, or I think it was like 2 or 3 streams, but those 2 or 3 streams gave me so much respect for Souls games. Gave me so much understanding about the fact that, like, just like in life, as I said in a TikTok once, like, just like in life, if you approach a situation the same way every single time, you're gonna get the same results. So sometimes when you're running in to fight that boss, try to fucking do something that's probably not gonna work, but try something different. You never know. You might have more success than you did the other way. You know, sometimes if you've done it 3 times the same way, mix it up. Fucking go nuts, grab your bow instead of your sword. And maybe you die, but at least you didn't do the same fucking thing again. You know, maybe instead of rushing in, hang back and let him come to you. And maybe that gets you killed. Cool. Now you know not to do that the next time. You know, and like, again, that is something that you have to learn in life as well, is that you will fail. Like, that's the other thing, is walking into like every boss fight in a Souls game knowing that you are going to die. Accept that I am going to fail at this the first time. And more than likely, unless I get lucky, I'm going to fail at least 3 times, because it's going to have like 3 different modes, and I'm probably going to fail the first time I encounter that mode. And coming to grips with and accepting failure, but knowing that that's not the end, that instead that's simply an opportunity to grow and get better. Again, something you need to have in your actual life and beyond just video games. You know what I mean? I'm good at knowing I'm gonna die. There's no one-shotting. Yeah, like, that's the thing that I finally took away when I played Elden Ring. Now, I'm not ready to invest my time and energy. I'm not in a place where I'm healthy enough mentally to do that because of the strain that it puts on me. But that does not mean that I would never go back to it, you know, but but it is a life lesson. You know, those Souls games do teach you that you have to adjust your strategy to every situation, that you have to accept failure, and that failure is a lesson in and of itself. It's not just like you fail and that's it. You know, you have to learn how to do that stuff. And yeah, I'll be honest, like, to be a tiny bit vulnerable, you know, I'm not in the best place right now, like in any situation. And like Souls games, some of those harder games are just too much mentally for me right now. Like, especially when you're going through like feelings of like self-worth and stuff, it doesn't help to play a game that is going to beat you down, that is going to make you feel like you're not good enough, you know? But again, I respect those games, and I do want to make my way back to Elden Ring one day, and try to conquer that game. I'm just not in a place where I'm healthy enough to get my ass handed to me for 6 hours by the same 20-minute stretch of video game. You know what I mean? Um, but that's why we have fun. That's why we laugh. That's why we try to have a good time here. Um, okay. Yeah, see, I can't imagine, E-Ray, I can't imagine how you do it, like, you know, with all the raids and the playing shit on Grandmaster and all that sort of stuff. But like I said, I always tell you, I respect the hell out of you for it. Tell your regional manager to stop bullshitting you. Ask the boss the next day who the hell that was. Walking to your manager, that's hilarious. Some people push themselves harder than they should. I recently had a raid member I had to push to step down, feeling it, only replacing them. Yeah, exactly. And it's very hard. Well, and that's the other thing about like a Souls game, or like that's the thing about a Souls game or raids or stuff like that. Those really difficult things is it's not even just that you're a masochist. It's that the reward, the feeling that you get when you succeed at something that is designed to break you down, that you know is difficult, it's amazing. Like, I mean, when I beat Margit after, what was it, 3 hours? It was like 3 hours of me trying to beat Margit. And when it finally happened, that's a high that like beating Hades at the end of Zero Dawn was just a walk in the park. That was just like business as usual. Beating the first boss in Elden Ring, I needed a cigarette after that fight, you know? Like, it felt so good to overcome something that difficult. And so, like, that's the thing is, and again, just like in real life, that success is something that you know you earned. Like, there is a beauty to playing on easy and just like there's a great, like, I'm playing Biomutant right now. That's my free time game. I try to have one, and I'm playing Biomutant. I put that bitch on easy, and that is my just coast through and beat 'em up game. And that's cool. But like, nothing in that playthrough is going to give me the same satisfaction of knowing how hard it was to beat Margit. Knowing how much effort I had to put in, knowing how even with the wolves and the NPC, I still had to beat him myself, you know, like, yeah, there's something incredible about that, which again, it's just like real life where, you know, you try really hard and eventually you succeed, you know, and that helps too. Like, I will say that that's something I've never really experienced with the raid stuff. I've never really been a multiplayer gamer when it comes to video games, but you're right. When you've got a group like that, when you've got people who are depending on you, but who are also supporting you, that's a really, again, unique feeling. Felt that in Final Fantasy with the undead boss. Took me 2 years to figure out how to beat it. Yeah. But once you do it, oh, it's the best, right? You failed 4 times fighting Hades and ultra hard on a new game. Yeah, exactly. And there's something about that is really cool. You know, he's playing Vegas 2 with my friends. Yeah. You know, and that's one of the things that I do love about gaming and video games in general is all of these different experiences that we can have individually, collectively playing. Oh, Forbidden West. Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't read. I was skimming. The last boss in Forbidden West. Okay, I get you. Sorry. It's also getting late for me, and I've been busy with the kids and stuff, all day. But anyway. But I love that we have these collective moments. Like, I'm still gonna go back to, I have never had a moment like I did when we beat God of War Ragnarok. I know I bring that one up. That's the one I bring up all the time. But the way we all at hour 4 or whatever reacted to the death of a character, I don't want to necessarily spoil it, and how we all buckled in and went, okay, we're not stopping until we get revenge, until we get through the end of this, and we hunkered down, and like we had some of the most active chat, and we spent like 3 hours just like grinding our way to the finish of that game. And like, that was as cool as it would have been to play that game on my own and to have that feeling. There was nothing like the camaraderie we had in that moment of all of us experiencing that together. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, it's just like, again, it's a different feeling when when you beat that ultra hard boss by yourself. That's an amazing feeling. But like, I'm not going to spoil it. I promise. Like I said, I'm just saying the last part of that game was a really cool part of that. You know what I mean? But yeah, no, those are the moments that I really like, are those moments where we get to do that. And especially as someone who has never really been, I sort of missed the mark on a lot of social media interactions just based on age, being an only child and stuff. Like, this is the kind of stuff that I really enjoy about this. Like, again, if it were just me, I probably could have gone the rest of my life without playing Red Dead Redemption 2. But seeing like, other people being like, let's fucking go, we need to do this. I want to see this. I want you to experience this. It's a special thing. You know what I mean? Wish they'd given us a second Norse game. Well, I mean, do you mean you wish we had 3 Norse games? Because God of War 2018 is also a Norse game. Okay. I figured that's what you meant, but I was like, I mean, they hit like almost all of the major like things about Norse mythology in 2 games. Like they did a really good job of hitting like almost everything important. I'm going back and studying more of Norse mythology because of how cool I thought things were in the games, made me appreciate how much they crammed into those 2 games. Like, I thought that was some really cool stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, I really enjoyed those. Again, I'm not gonna, we know that you don't want to spoil anything, so like, we're not gonna like spoil anything. But if you do want to go, I definitely understand it, Quinn. Maybe. One thing I will say, and this is not a spoiler, if they never make another God of War game at all, I would be fine. Like, I don't think I would necessarily be missing out on anything if the series ended with Ragnarok. Like, they could have him go off and go to another pantheon or do something else. But if they didn't, I think that it would be, I think it'd be a solid ending. Is there any specific experience from when you were a kid that you miss? That way when Ascension came out. Yeah. God of War has had like a couple of really good, solid endings. And I'm like, again, but I like that it leaves the door open if there's a story. I just don't want it to be forced. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want them to feel like they need to just crank out another God of War game or another Last of Us game or, one of those kind of things. Like, I don't want, as much as I like the Assassin's Creed games, I don't want every franchise to be Assassin's Creed because fuck, they churn out. Like, I remember one year, and it was like when the Paris one came out, there were like 5 Assassin's Creed games that year. Like, they churned out those sons of bitches like it was nobody's business. And that was frustrating because it just like it muddied everything up. You know what I mean? And I don't want other successful franchises to ever kind of do that same thing. I know, and I wouldn't think they would ever do that, but you know what? I'm still burned by that because I really liked the first the first 2 Assassin's Creed games, and so I got burned for a long time until Odyssey and Origins, and then I got a little better, and then we got not Assassin's Creed at all, Valhalla, which is a cool Viking game. It's a fine Viking game. It's a weird Assassin's Creed game. I love Altair. I love Assassin's Creed 1. And I liked Ezio too. Like, I always joke that that was where I learned that like, I think I knew, but I didn't know that cities in Italy had Italian names as well as English names, or and so like that's when I learned that it was Firenze, and Venezia, as opposed to Florence and Venice, which I never want to call, I never want to call it Florence ever again. It's Firenze. Like, such a beautiful, beautiful language, beautiful names. And that was the first takeaway that I had from Assassin's Creed 2, was just like expanding my worldview on that stuff. I agree, he didn't need 3 whole games. So my big thing with video games was always, it's always been story for me. Like when you talk about like what did I miss from when I was a kid, I think I've just always been chasing, and I still love to chase, a good story. Something that really challenges my mind, teaches me something. I always point back to when we played Legend of Dragoon. I learned the word abhor from the Legend of Dragoon. I cut my teeth reading, playing video games and stuff. Yeah, fuck bills. I miss all sorts of stuff of being a kid in general. That I 100% agree with. But in terms of like gaming, I think it's just, I don't know if I really miss anything in terms of gaming for me, because the other games were, if they weren't story driven games, which have just gotten better as time has gone on, they were insane platformers, and I've never loved platformers. Learned the word of horror watching Mob Psycho. Nice. And frustrated because they want to do all the side stuff, and I just wanted to know what was going on with Ezio. Right. You know, that's like, I will admit that, I don't know, I probably don't pay enough attention to some of these stories when I'm streaming, but that's on me. Like, I don't know exactly what's going on. If I can, let me take a stab in the dark. Okay. I don't even remember what started the it was like a botched job started this game, Red Dead. Like, what started this game that had them out in the snow? Was it like I don't even remember. But I know that I learned now tonight that there's a feud between Colm O'Driscoll and Dutch Vanderland, two gangs. There's a feud between them over the lover and the brother. And we're on the run from the Pinkertons, who also want to stick us up because of robbing Leviticus Cornwall's train. Is that pretty much it? I don't know. Blackwater job was a setup. It went bad. Okay. I think that's most of it. Levitovich Cornfucker. You're right. My bad. But that's pretty much it, right? I think it's just like, that's the other thing, is when the world is this fucking open and there's so much scope, it does become a little harder for me to invest in the characters. You know what I mean? That's kind of like, I'm not going to lie, Final Fantasy 16, absolutely beautiful. Went back and was replaying it a little bit. Gorgeous. One of the prettiest games I've ever seen. Storyline, if you play all the side quests and stuff, absolutely great. The area where the game falls the most flat for me, not that it's bad, but the area where it fell the most flat for me was gameplay. It took a while for it to get stale, and it's still not stale, but it took a while for it to get repetitive, but once it did, it became super repetitive. Like, it had there's a meta. It had a bar, and once you hit that bar, there was nothing else you could do. Like, we joked about how, like, you could build different builds, and that was kind of cool, but really there's like 3 effective builds, and at the end of the day you're eventually going to just default to the one or one of the two, you know, which, like, it's worth it still, because that may not be a game I'm ready to go back, because I started replaying it and I'm like, I don't think it's a game I'm ready to go back and replay just yet, but it will be one that I will go back to play again and then do everything 100% all the way through. And I don't do that very often. Yeah, still takes timing and skill. I agree. But it can also, if you play with like the rings and stuff, it can be, it's more of a button masher than you would think, but also less of a button masher than Final Fantasy VII Remake, in my opinion. Yeah, I was talking about Final Fantasy 16. And I knew it was just me and E-Ray for a second too, pretty much, of the people who were talking. So I was taking a second to chat with him. But I was just talking about how, like, there are a lot of games that I would say those action adventure games are kind of right now really creeping up to the top of my list of games that I enjoy the whole way through. Like, for example, God of War and Horizon both being series where I feel like they are engaging the whole way through. And I feel like they kind of got it right with the upgrade system and the new abilities system to make the games feel really progressive. And 16 did that great as well. It just was like there was so much end game where I kind of had my stuff cemented the way I wanted them, and there was no more nuance after a certain point. Like after you got Bahamut, like I never needed to change anything again after that. I haven't played Forspoken. I'm legitimately curious if how that is though. Cuz that game got a ton of hype when it first came out, and then it just like radio silence. Like but I'm letting the game chill. Yeah. And the Berserkers in Ragnarok. I'm still not a fan of the Dark Elves in either God of War game. Those were things so nutty that it just becomes the meta. Yeah, and you know what? Like I said, I mean, it doesn't ruin the game for me. You know what I mean? Like, I still think Final Fantasy 16, in a year where Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't come out, I think Final Fantasy 16 has Game of the Year locked down. Its biggest competition, like, in my opinion, just between like the visuals and everything else, if in a world where Baldur's Gate 3 didn't exist, I feel like it had it pretty well locked down. Not that there aren't competitors and there aren't other great games, because Starfield could very well beat it out. I still don't have a lot of hope in Bethesda, I'm going to be honest. I am excited to see it come out. I just don't necessarily have the most excitement or trust in Bethesda yet. I think it can be a great game in 6 months, is kind of how I feel. But one raid tier, they balanced a raid boss against a meta, and if you didn't run the meta, you just couldn't kill the boss. He had to patch the game. Wow, that's crazy. You watched the Angry Joe Show review about Forspoken? Yikes. There's no sincerity. Oh, the Forspoken has that corny Joss Whedon dialogue. Constant banter and stuff. Less excited for... I didn't realize it was straight up turn-based. Oh, yeah, and as someone who played the shit out of and really loves D&D 5e, it's literally just 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons combat. So like I definitely understand that feeling, but I do enjoy that personally. But you guys also see I play turn-based games all the time. I love turn-based combat. Final Fantasy Tactics Ogre Reborn. I love turn-based combat. But more importantly, it's all of the narrative stuff with Baldur's Gate 3. But whether we're excited for, whether it's like your super excited game, I don't think based on everything we've seen, the possibilities, the care with which they gave the game, I really don't see a world where it doesn't win. If it does not win Game of the Year, I feel like it's kind of a political, because you know how all the developers have been coming out going, this is not the new standard, this is an outlier, please don't judge us based on how this game performs, or you know, or is. That would be the reason I could see it losing Game of the Year, would be because other developers are like, please don't give it Game of the Year, because then more people are going to expect that from us. But oh, what up, Assassin in your ass? Ever played any of the front missions? No, I don't think so. And yeah, like I said, it's not everybody's cup of tea with like turn-based combat and stuff, but like, yeah, with the sheer wealth of like just dialogue options, skill options, the viability of pretty much any play style, the just vast number of options within the game of dialogue, decisions, combat, like the game is so both simultaneously so pretty, so well made. The mechanics work. It is just 5th edition. Like, you just look at it and you're like, I don't think there's a way it doesn't deserve Game of the Year, unfortunately. You know. Took them 10 years to make. Yeah, it took a long time for them to make. They had all the beta testing. They had, yeah. There's a reason that Larian was so successful with this. Starfield would be kind of the outlier, but like the other thing, I will say this, if there's one other game I think could beat it, if I'm being entirely honest, if there is a game I think could take it, I would argue that it'll be Spider-Man 2, almost entirely because of recency bias. By the time they get around to voting, Spider-Man 2 looks like it's going to be fan-fucking-tastic. It's a sequel, you know, a direct sequel on pretty much the same platform, and it will come out closer to the end of the year. And as we see with any award show, the closer you come out to the end of the year, the more likely you are to win an award. I don't know why. I could see Spider-Man 2 being the safer approach. And yeah, I agree. I still think that Starfield is going to be great. But I also think it's going to be buggy, partly because of it's Bethesda, but also because it's a super ambitious project. And like that level of ambition, the difference between Baldur's Gate and Starfield in terms of their ambition is that while there are all those options locked into Baldur's Gate, there's still a framework that is like cemented. The fact that Starfield has the opportunity to be so almost random at points, like where you can go to a world that's almost entirely random, just means that there is the opportunity for bugs in a way that does not exist in other games. And that's my only thing, is I don't even think that's a bad thing. Because I would rather a studio try something that ambitious and have to overcome a few bugs. But I feel like with the nature of just even a little bit of RNG, Starfield is going to have bugs. They're going to have to patch things and stuff because of that RNG sort of nature of it. But again, I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that that's going to skew how that game is accepted upon release. It's kind of like, as much as like, even if Jedi Survivor had been perfect, if it had been Game of the Year worthy, like, which I still think it'll be in the conversation, it'll be nominated, but the PC launch of Jedi Survivor being absolutely horrendous. Good night, Ikwan. See you in Tahiti. But the release of Jedi Survivor on PC being absolutely horrendous ruins any chances it has of being actively considered for Game of the Year. Not because it should, but it's going to, because that's what people are going to remember, is they're going to remember that stuff. You know, the sausage has the least amount of hooves, any sausage I've ever eaten. I don't want any hooves. And like I said, I would love to be wrong and be like, oh, there'll never be any things at all. But like you said, no bugs is impossible. There will be some. And based on the very nature of the game that they're trying to make, there will be bugs. Oh, it's evening actually for you? Okay, well, good evening. I might have said that wrong. Oh, it is coming up on it's not that late. But yeah, just don't think that a game that is going to need that many patches is going to be or that is just by its nature going to require that kind of constant updating. Yeah, I would love to be wrong, though. I would love for Bethesda to prove us all wrong and somehow have mastered this system in such a way that I'm wrong, that we're all wrong. You know, I would love that. I think that would be perfect. I just don't see it happening. My guess is that, like, just based on, we already know, like, Diablo 4, Baldur's Gate 3, Jedi Survivor, Final Fantasy 16, Starfield, Spider-Man 2, and a handful of, Tears of the Kingdom. That's the other big one that people sleep on, is Tears of the Kingdom. Because that one was pretty fucking huge too. And then that leaves like 3 more spaces for 10. I really do think that just the sheer amount of polish that Larian was able to put into Baldur's Gate 3 makes it kind of the shoe-in. You know what I mean? I feel like any year that game dropped, it was going to end up taking it, just with all of the everything that they had. Diablo 4 really comes down to just kind of people with I think that one comes down to also just kind of the bias. I don't, from what I saw, I didn't see Diablo 4 being like universe shattering, so to speak. But I could be wrong. It's also just not my kind of game. And I just don't like Blizzard. Skip Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, I don't have a Switch or any Nintendo system, so I didn't play Tears of the Kingdom either. But from everything I heard, the ambition in that game, the creativity that it sponsors, makes it a contender for sure. Yeah, I mean, lewdness is a possibility. You know, there are things that, like we said, that could hinder it from winning. If they want to be like political about it, like, oh, it's too mature, or they don't want to upset the other developers, you know, depending on how political the Game Awards are at this point. feeling. And I hope Starfield gives you that feeling too. I really do. I hope that Starfield gives you back what you love about gaming. That's awesome. Yeah, Blizzard used to be a really cool company, and now they are just like literally they're with I had a moment where, like I said, I've never really liked Blizzard as a company, never really played any of the Diablo games. And I had a moment where I felt like I made a mistake as a streamer not picking up Diablo 4. I forget what I picked up instead, but it might have been when 16 came out. Like, I put my eggs on 16, and from a business perspective, that was a shitty decision. That game did nothing for me the entire time I played it, and I played 70 some odd hours of that game. But I felt like I should have gotten Diablo 4 just because of the possibility of like viewership, even just based on the drops and stuff. I was like, oh man, from a business standpoint, maybe that would have been better. But then I remembered, and then it came out like a week later, Blizzard was on their shit again doing something stupid. And I was like, there's a reason I don't, actively support Blizzard's games. Like, there's a reason that I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it got to that again. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that's not worth it. Maybe that's better. You know what I mean? And I know that's the whole peek behind the curtain stupid shit. That stuff doesn't matter. My point was mainly just, I don't know what my point was. I said my point. I'm getting tired. I need to call it quits. This is like bonus footage up the ass here. I might not load this up. I think what I'm going to do, actually, is before I go to bed just now, I think I'm going to go ahead and clip this up. And I think all of the end of this, I'm going to put under a bonus stream. So there's been like almost 2 hours of us just shooting the shit. So I think I'm going to put it under there. It is bedtime for me. I got to get up early in the morning. This is probably going to affect whether or not I actually do an AM stream or not. Really depends on how awake I am before I need a nap in the afternoon. But either way, shooting the shit is a good time, and I love this. I really do. Like, I like talking like this, but I do have to get some sleep as well. Good night, everybody. I hope you have a good time. Don't forget to take some time to laugh, whether it's at me and my stupid shit or anything else you can, because, as I say every time, as the great Rob Paulson always says, laughter is the best medicine, and the cool part is you can't OD, and the refills are free. Have a wonderful night, and I will see you tomorrow for The Last of Us Part Tuesdays.
You are now leaving the SK base. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And never forget, the Force will be with you, always.